What are some other misconceptions about truck driving outside of the TV world? Like other people who maybe don't drive trucks. What are some misconceptions that you see or hear of?
I will say that starting my own YouTube channel, it's even to this day, to some extent, it's been pretty difficult to have the support of fellow drivers. I have a lot of support. I don't want to say, I've got quite a few good buddies out there who are like, go Tiff, get this. Oh, you want to record here? Check this out. I do have that. But in general, there are a lot of drivers who are not necessarily as supportive of, documenting these things, because that shows that have created this sense of this stigma, this, adrenaline-filled. It's created this bucket list of these people who come out and they really want to try it, and they come out and they create dangerous situations. We have trucks to this day that they just wanted to drive it once. They just wanted to. 2 years ago, this guy, any driver who's listening to this, they'll know of Red Rocket. That was his name. Mm-hmm. He was called Red Rocket. He borrowed, I can't remember how many sets of chains from other drivers, blew them out, borrowed another set. He went north, came south, and coming down Chandelar Shelf, somebody got on the CB and said, hey, stop. You got somebody on the road down here. He spun out. He went backwards. He's throwing a set of chains. He's on the ground. Stop where you're at. Guy either wasn't listening or what, but he ended up coming down, sliding, finally seeing the guy on the road, slammed on his brakes. His trailer went sideways. He lost total control, nearly hit one of our local drivers.
Oh, wow.
Caused a really bad situation.
Oh, wow.
And so, but at least you got to be a driver. You're
Right.
a Dalton Highway driver.
Yeah,
You got to be an ice road.
Yeah.
So it actually did those kinds of. I don't like saying the name of the show, but that kind of
I got you.
leads to some pretty bad situations because people don't know. They just come out and they think, "Oh, I'm going to do it." And there's always every driver. My buddy Brian said it best. He said every driver has had their first trip.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But as far as Alaskan Highway, Dalton Highway drivers, I had my first trip with a seasoned professional.
Right.
Who taught me every corner, every hill, things to think about, etiquette.
Yeah.
My first trip north, we were headed south, and there was somebody who had his fuel pump had gone out, and he was stopped on a hill. I work for a different company. Mm-hmm. So we threw a set of chains, and we were going to help pull him up. Now, he finally got to a pullout, and there was my company, his company, another company, and an entirely different... There were 4 different companies, 5 different drivers there, stopped in this pullout, packed in, getting this man going again, getting his truck started. So, not only would he be safe and warm, but that he would also be able to get himself home. That is the type of camaraderie. That was my first trip. It was iconic for me because I knew at that moment that this is exactly where I wanted to be. I wanted to be a part of that.
Wow.
You throw your hazards on, you pop your hood, something's wrong, everyone will stop.
Right.
Nobody will. I started a nonprofit. I applied to start a nonprofit to help these guys in case something ever happens. And the term I used was chained. We're all linked together out there.
Right.
We're all one unit. And if one link fails, that's why it's so important that we focus on keeping that alive. And I'm so glad to have that opportunity to drive the Haul Road.
Yes.
And be out there. And to contribute my own, feminine, mother hen type domestic self. Like I bring something else to the table. There's a lot of, there's some rough around the edges truck drivers. There's some, super intelligent. I know of a guy, Cook is his last name. He ended up throwing a truck together, was able to drive it all the way back on a paperclip and a pack of chewing gum wrapper. These guys
He made a fuse.
That's what I was
That's
just
exactly
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did.
Boom.
He did. Yeah.
Exactly.
But he got it home. I mean, these guys are amazing.
Okay, so feeding off of Brandon. So are there any? And so we were trying to stay away from the whole female trucker thing, because you're a trucker.
Right.
All right, you're a trucker, and we look at you as a trucker, not just a female trucker, but a trucker. However, I do have a question for you. How many more female truckers are there? And do you guys all communicate and talk amongst yourselves in order to spread positive feedback, words of motivation, that kind of thing? So is that going on here?
Yeah, to certain extents.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I'm not going to get along with everyone over here in this side of the Hoodoo Brew.
Got you.
But whether they're male or female, I'll be friends with a person or two.
Right,
now,
right.
unfortunately, there's only, let's see, E, C, L. There's probably five females out there.
Oh, is that
So
all?
we're limited on
Okay.
how many
Okay.
Five for the Dalton.
Correct.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
there's tons of other pilot car drivers. I have a lot of female pilot car drivers. 'cause
Yeah.
They're more, I'll run back with you. I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about my e-log. All right, girl, come on.
yeah.
But when it comes to driving with other people, sometimes if you don't plan and coordinate a trip together, you'll just meet them in passing.
Right.
You know?
right.
And not everyone runs the same speed. That's why you're usually sometimes alone,
Wow.
So, yes, I know of all of these women, and I'm so grateful to have them. But
Okay.
And if I ever needed anything, I know that they, just like I would be there. But I also know that a lot of the men would do the same thing too. So it's kind of,
Gotcha. Got you. Okay, so you good to go?
Yeah.
Jeff, you good to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got probably maybe one more after the one more question for you. So, are there any safety tips that you like to share with other drivers on the road?
Well, I think that if you go into the trucking industry knowing everything because you read a book, that doesn't leave any
Or
room.
watched a TV show?
Or watched a TV show.
Yeah, got you.
That doesn't leave you any room to grow.
Got you.
And nowadays, the most valuable thing that we have is education.
Got you.
And whether it's truck driving or, real estate or banking or, accounting for your own home books,
Right.
you've got to learn and develop those skills.
Right.
Truck driving is the same way. When I was offloading bulkers up at one of the gold mines here in town, I learned and actually requested multiple trainers because I took a piece of this trainer's technique and a
Right.
piece of this trainer's technique. And
Right.
as long as you're open to receiving that information,
Right.
it does you more good.
Right.
Don't be closed-minded to
Right.
unless you
Look.
you yourself see a safety issue.
So I'm sitting here, I'm giggling to myself right now because guys, so we're talking to a professional because she knows not to throw out names.
I've noticed that. She's doing a fantastic job.
I'm like, and now I'm thinking to myself, oh, maybe we've been doing it wrong by giving out shout outs without. That's some good stuff.
Well, like I said, I have my own content
Yeah,
and I do
exactly.
it online. And if
Exactly.
I don't want to be
And this is a learning lesson right here.
yeah, I don't want to be associated with anything.
Because
you
I'm
know?
pretty sure we all know who you were just talking about, but you're like, okay, I'm not going to even say their name. Okay. I'm like, okay. Let's see what we.
But I was actually going to ask. Taking your lead, I wasn't going to say any names, but I was going to ask you if you had ever made any deliveries to any gold mines. I particularly used to work at one very recently, and I feel like I seen you there with a load of something.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I'm guessing
possibly.
it was probably you.
Yeah, possibly. I've delivered to multiple gold mines.
Sure,
There's a
sure.
couple, one just north of Fairbanks.
Yeah,
There's another
yeah,
one,
yeah. Got you.
east, and you got to go down another road to get to it. I've done many deliveries to each of
So
those
you're not
locations.
specific just to the Dalton, or are you now specific just
Now
to the
I
Dalton?
am.
Okay.
Yeah, this was previous to
Okay.
where I am today.
Got you.
And I'm
Got you.
happier. I'm happier where I am today.
Got you. Okay, so speaking of happiness, because see, we're about to go down another rabbit hole, because and we have time today. We don't have so we have some time to play with though. Okay, so rabbit hole, happiness. What aspect of the industry makes you the happiest? Or
Well-
is it all of it combined, or is it just the road aspect? Is it the planning aspect? Is it
There's multiple things about what I do. One would be, well, as a single female, financial independence is, it feels good.
yeah,
It feels
exactly.
good.
Exactly.
The other thing is I know that in my industry, what I do, I am fully capable of going to any company anywhere in the world, and if I said what I do now, I'd have a pretty good chance of being qualified. You
Okay,
know,
gotcha.
that gives me, I feel like my resume is getting stronger, and
Right.
it's not just the industry that the trucking industry. It's the the content and having communication with the ATA.
Right.
I am feeling really good about where I'm going in my path. Right?
Got you. Okay, so 5 years from now, let's say 5 years from now, and you talk about content, and we're going to talk about that real quick because we have some time. Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
With driving.
Driving, content, do you want to transition into ownership, or are you going to go down the path of just content with your YouTube or your podcast, or what is your vision?
I think that. How do I say this?
Say it. Just say it.
Well, filters. Remember?
Look here, we have no filters on this channel.
No.
You didn't listen to
Well,
last week's with Kenan, did you?
You've been drinking. See, there's a difference. So for me, I think that I have a lot of opportunity
Okay.
in my 5 years.
Okay.
I do have a personal plan.
Okay.
But I think that I would like to see where this content that I do create takes me.
Okay.
My ultimate goal, and even starting that content in the first place.
So transitioning, basically.
Eventually.
Okay.
I do love being in a truck.
Okay.
I love it. I do love it. I don't know.
Gotcha.
There's something about it.
Got you.
I think to go off your previous question.
Yes.
Being a female and it doesn't have to be just female,
Right.
but being out there in the middle of nowhere and realizing that you're the only one that's capable of getting you going again. It feels good when you accomplish it. You start rolling.
Look, I had no idea that you changed the airbag on your truck. And so, so whenever I go to the lower 48 and I'm on a business trip and I'm sitting at the hotel and having a cocktail at the bar after the duty day. Thank you. I don't want to get in trouble with nobody. But anyways, it's after the duty day, boss. And I always talk about the difference between a lower 48 woman and like an Alaska woman, because I'm not trying to get all whatever, but that's some good stuff right there, man. It's I'm gonna change a shock on the side of the road.
Well, you have to, or I'm stuck.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Nobody's gonna come rescue.
And I'm up here on the Dalton by myself, rolling. Yeah, that's some good stuff right there, man.
I tell you, I'm pretty limited. Again, I'm pretty
Yeah.
limited. I've only ever been in Alaska.
Right,
So
right.
I guess, you surround yourself
Yeah.
with people,
Yeah.
like-minded individuals. We probably have more of that here, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But, going back to that 5-year plan,
Mm-hmm.
the reason I started the content in the beginning was to get that nonprofit going.
Okay.
And something that can help people in need who work that road, whether they there was a company that had their turbo had caught fire on the pass just a few years ago. The guy barely had enough time to grab his cell phone off the dash and hop out.
Oh, wow.
He was able to get his ID and his cell phone. That was it. Everything else went up in flames. And this truck burned for days.
Days?
Days. It was
Oh,
burning for days.
so they just let it, because of the content probably, they just let it just expire on its own.
Well, yeah. So they I mean, yeah,
Get a
they.
fire truck out there.
Yeah, true.
What are they gonna do?
True.
Take a
Look,
water dumper and fly it out there?
True.
On Adigan Pass.
Yeah,
Let's remind
true.
you of that too. So,
True.
I
Okay.
mean, here's the driver. He just lost everything in one big blaze.
Gotcha.
Just like that, gone. And so my ultimate goal is to be able to help someone like him.
Gotcha.
So he needs winter gear. He needs tools because we've been talking here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I do not leave the yard without certain equipment.
Right.
Because it's important for me to either have someone who has it with me.
Right.
Like in a different truck.
Yep.
Or make sure that I have it myself so I'm fully capable of making it up and back.
Gotcha.
Depending on who you work for, sometimes, maybe a lot of times, I'm guessing that's your equipment.
Oh,
Buy
yeah. Yes.
It's not supplied by the company.
That's-
Is yours.
that
That's
is
why when you say
exactly right,
That guy
yeah.
lost everything.
He
you
lost-
want to be able
yeah.
to help him.
Yep.
'Cause-
Those
'cause
tools come.
Those are his.
Come with him to each truck or driver,
Right,
company,
right.
whatever. I will say that parts. If you're not an owner operator, like as a company driver, parts are provided to me for my truck.
Sure.
Right.
So
right.
I'm saving them on a tow bill. But
Yeah,
they're gonna
yeah,
be willing
yeah.
to do that.
Nice.
So
nice.
that's what I would like in the next couple of years is to really get that rolling.
Okay.
Is that nonprofit to help people like him. This last winter, or it was August, sometime in August, I had to stop and I had to change an airbag on the steer tire of the truck, or a steer axle. And there was a driver who had gone by right as we were getting it done. And he knew we were there. And there's a story behind this. Just hear me out for a second. He kept going, and we pulled out probably, 10, 15 minutes behind him. He was loaded up with a load of pipe.
Hold up.
And, yeah. Another perfect example of somebody who could have, I really want to help, and the reasons why I'm doing this with this nonprofit. About August of last year, there was a gentleman. We had stopped at 62 Mile on the Elliott, and we were changing an airbag on a steer axle. And this driver had gone by us probably about 10 or 15 minutes before I started rolling.
Yep.
And he was carrying a load of pipe. He was hauling a load of pipe north. And we had gotten down past the Yukon River. And we were heading up just about 3 miles past that. And a driver who I was running with at the time got on the radio. And he said to me, "Hey, something's up here. Radio silence." Which, as the driver, indicates, hold up, don't talk. Let the communication come to me. Figure out what's going on. Well, that driver who had passed us hauling that pipe, he had gone down into that dip, and his trailer had hit the ditch just enough that it ended up sucking him off into the side of the road and into this dip. And he went trailer first, then truck, and it went upside down. Now, when I got there, tires were still slowly turning on this truck. It had just happened. And now, we talk about bringing, each individual brings something to the table as far as being out there. There's the drivers I was with, they were like, "Okay, how do we contain spills?" I'm like, "Okay, you, sir, come here. Let me look at you. How are you feeling? How many fingers?" I'm doing my first response, and those guys are containing what could be potentially a problem. There's water down there in the bottom. And he looked at me and he said, "I know that you were changing a airbag there at 62. It's like, I should have stopped and I should have helped you." And I said, "It's okay. We got it going. Everything's good." I was thinking, to me, it was no big deal. Like, we've already got it. And he said,
Right.
"No, I should have helped you.
Right.
Everything would have been different. My day would have gone differently." He repeated that 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
He was in shock.
Right.
And he looked over and he's like,
Right.
"This is my truck."
Right.
It was his truck.
Right.
He was an owner-operator. And it hit me in that moment. That truck in the ditch, upside down,
Yeah.
And there's little four-wheelers that'll come by and they'll take pictures and be all, oh my gosh, how cool.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is really, that's insensitive. But in that moment, I realized, like, that's his mortgage. That's his kid's college fund. That's his Christmas. Upside down in the ditch.
I'm going to tell you what. And so the reason he felt that remorse is because as he was passing you, he probably was like, I'm not going to stop. I'm too busy. I got to get to where I'm going. I can't stop. And when it happened to him a short while after, that was cemented in his brain. You know what? I should have stopped because, so.
Maybe. I mean, there's also the butterfly factor. Whatever.
Yeah.
Something would have been different.
I'm not trying to get spiritual. However, I do believe God talks to me. And the way he talks to me is by, like, I can never talk crap. Like, I cannot talk crap. Because when I talk crap and I do something I know I'm not supposed to be doing, it always bites me in the butt, right? And so I'm thinking that's probably so. Apparently, it doesn't only happen to me. It happens to everybody else, too. And that's his reaction. It's like, I should have stopped.
It was a monumental moment for me, seeing this man and knowing that his wife, his family is at home. Mm-hmm. There's no service there.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're going to hear from somebody else who heard it from somebody else who heard it from somebody else. Oh, so-and-so went upside down in the ditch. Yeah. Oh, my gosh, is Dad okay?
Yeah, exactly.
And then on top of that, now he's without a piece of equipment that'll help haul these loads north. He still has to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So that was huge for me.
Right.
And seeing that, knowing the impact that something like that had on a single individual, when, like I said before, like we're linked, we're all together.
Right.
And if I can help in that way, that's why I did what I did with this nonprofit.
Nice. So I got two questions, and I think you might have actually answered one of them just with that story that you were talking about, because you said that gentleman, he was an owner-operator, and you kind of saw, like, his mortgage, his kid's college fund, et cetera, et cetera. One of my questions was going to be kind of leading on to the, what do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? I was going to ask you, is there any interest in being an owner-operator yourself? But I'm kind of thinking I already might know the answer, but I still wanted to ask the question.
If I got to a point where maybe the content paid enough that I would be having a truck in my life in order to make more content.
Okay.
Then maybe, perhaps. But I really like being with my kids.
What if you could afford just like a truck to just have? Maybe not even work with, but make it really nice, like a show truck or something like that.
Do content and stuff on that on the side.
Yeah.
And I mean, potentially.
I guess you wouldn't be an owner-operator, you'd just be an owner.
Right.
Yeah. And that is absolutely an option. I looked into that at one point, but the reality is I don't have where I am in my life at this moment is I don't have a garage capable of holding something like that, and I don't want it just sitting on the side of the road.
Sure, yeah, especially if it's a really nice, pretty one.
Right. If I'm going to try to get it to that point, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then my other question, I'm a blue-collar worker. I do HVAC service for a living. Mm-hmm. And I just so happen to notice you're wearing your work boots, and it's a very simple question. Do you like lace-up or slip-ons?
Okay, so this is a very good question. I wear my steel toes regularly. I will say that when I am in my truck, it's tough because I'll tie them pretty loose, but the laces are tight, so I'm not going to trip on them, right?
Okay.
And then I like to be able to slip them off. Because when I want to get into the back of my truck, I always take my boots off. My boots only stay in the front seat, my driver's seat.
Right. Makes sense.
Right.
That's my home away from home.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So I like to keep it clean.
Yeah.
But that being said, I do keep them just quick and easy. Put them on because if I have to, let's say I spin out on, the shelf or 2 Mile, I have to get out and throw a set of chains real quick. I need to have them on.
So you prefer lace up, but you keep them loose enough to be slipped on.
Correct.
So I always loved lace. That was my jam. And my brother is blue collar worker as well. He actually spends a lot of time up in Prudhoe Bay. He introduced me to the slip-ons, and I've never gone back. Kind of like cowboy
You'll
boots.
have to show me.
I don't have.
Send me a link.
I mean, they're just like they're almost like cowboy boots, but like Red Wing makes them.
So
Haas makes them.
that's pretty much how I have them.
Carhartt makes the set too. Yeah. But
If I need them tight, they're quick and easy. Just like twist, 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 hook, hook, hook. And then I've got them tight. But for the most part, this is how I just put my pants over them.
and that's okay. I saw that you were wearing the work boots. I actually have mine in the truck, so I didn't know how sloppy the parking lot was going to be. But I decided to wear my tennies in anyways. But yeah, no, slip-ons or lace. You like lace?
Yes.
Perfect. That's all I got, Tillman.
All right. So, Jeff, are you good?
I was going to say, what is your preferred truck?
Oh, yes.
Freightliner, Peterbilt, Mack.
Kenworth,
So
baby.
You will not. There's probably, I could count on one hand the amount of Macs that have been on that haul road in the past year. So Mac would kind of be, and that's just yeah. Let's see. I loved my Peterbilt, my long nose Pete. Actually, I prefer short nose Pete. Because I like to be able to see. That being said, I really like the wider cabs. Some of this, I'm in a slope nose Pete right now, and the cab in the back. There's a desk that pulls out. I pull up my computer. I'm editing videos somewhere out there at 62 mile. Like I really enjoy that. I'm not gonna lie, but I also know that a lot of people like the Western Stars. I don't have a lot of experience with Western Stars.
I'm a fan of Peterbilt because I used to live about 30 miles from their factory there in Nebraska.
Oh yeah.
I was working for a earthwork company at the time. And part of our side gig we had, it was like a family-run thing, The dad owned the company, one son did the construction side, and his other son did heavy haul, Jeep and Stinger stuff.
Yeah.
And he had a pair of Peterbilts, and, back in pre-2010, 450 horsepower was normally what people were running. They were just starting to get the 600 horse engines in there, and he had ones. His new truck has 600 horse something engine in it, 2 pusher axles, the Jeep and Stinger, and he could take pretty much anything anywhere in the country.
Oh yeah.
And apparently he could do most of it on like 1 tank of diesel
Yeah.
because it had massive tanks.